Welcome back, everybody, to the Chasing Cashflow podcast. This is episode number 5.
So we brought the deal back to the bank that we'd used before, but they were going to offer us 25% down at 20 years amortization, which is like you want the longest amortization possible to make your payment super low, and you want to put the least amount down. And I was like, dude, I think 25% down on 20 years, it made our payment really high. And I was like, it just doesn't make sense. It's like, unless we're going to just go in here to flip it, we want a little bit of cash flow. And so we were moving forward with them. And then I called the other bank and I was like, hey guys, can you do something with this? He's like, yeah, man, we can do 15% at 25 years. And I was like, are you serious? Like, better literally on both ends.
What's up, everybody? We are back at the Chasing Cashflow podcast. Super excited for today. We have a young real estate investor on today. He last couple of years, he's been having a ton of success. He was able to climb from, I believe, 3 to 40 doors in the past year alone. Super excited to talk to him. We're actually going to touch on, I think this is an interesting topic of social media and how that can really like build your business. And if you're not already in social media, like trying to build followers, building your network, how that can actually really help you in your real estate business and journey. So excited to talk about that. He actually got a viral TikTok, which kind of exploded, which he's going to touch on and talk about later in the video. It's at the very end, so make sure to tune in for that. But talks about his viral video made him $10,000 in less than a week. In less than a week. That's insane. So super excited. That's such a neat story. But the bulk of this episode is actually going to be about how to build teams. So this guest actually invests out of state. So how to build a team out of state, how to feel comfortable with that. And basically we talk about the core 4, who to get, and partnerships. We talk about scaling. We talk about how he got into real estate investing, his story. So it's gonna be a super neat show today. So I'm super excited. And then I just want to say thank you for tuning in and listening. So without all that being said, let's go ahead and jump right in. Welcome back, everybody, to the Chasing Cashflow podcast. I am super excited for this podcast because we have the one and only Chantz the Rapper on today. No, I'm just kidding. It is Chantz Ireland. He is an investor. He's based out of Seattle. But how you doing today, Chantz?
I'm doing good, Evan. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem at all, man. How was your holidays? You have a good holiday?
Yeah, had a good holiday. Went up snowboarding a few times, and now we just got to get through the new year, kind of get things cracking again.
There you go. Get back to your goals for 2022. Yeah. Well, why don't we jump right into it? Why don't you tell the audience how you got started in investing in first place?
So I bought my first investment when I was 21. It was a 3-unit, and I actually bought it from my dad. He owned a few properties, and he had to sell one, and I didn't know anything, and I was like, you know what? I know enough that I want to get involved. And so I just kind of took the leap. He helped me get into it. And that was kind of my first purchase there.
Gotcha. Okay. So before that, did you know anything about real estate investing? I mean, obviously you said he had properties, but did you go with him to his properties, do all the management and all that? Or was that kind of your first introduction to rental properties?
So I had been in, like, he sparked the interest in me of real estate, and you kind of get bit by that bug. And I knew I wanted to be involved because I heard about him making like $1,000 a month in cash flow. And I was like, man, if I could make $1,000 a month, like that would be so crazy. Right. Like, so, and I mean, it's way different now how I think, but back then I was like, dude, My mom's going to quit her job. I'm going to retire. And, but yeah, no, he does more like RVs and trailers. And so he had one triplex, and I had been listening to Bigger Pockets, and I knew I wanted to get involved. I didn't have any money, and it just kind of, the opportunity came up, and I was like, hey, like, consider me, like, let's find a way to make this work. And we did.
There you go. Okay. Well, it sounds like he, kind of you two negotiated with that. So obviously he wasn't going to give you a deal, but, so how did you end up financing that?
So we did the FHA 3.5%, which it's such a common thing that people talk about. And it's like, you can get into up to a 4-unit building using an FHA loan. So I paid $305, so I think it came down to like $10,000 or $12,000 or something that I had to come up with, and it was
And what? Why don't you tell them what the requirements are with an FHA loan?
So FHA loan on a 2 to 4 unit building, you need to live in one of the units for a year, and it's a very low barrier entry to kind of get into the real estate space. So after you live there for a year, you can do what I did, which was refinance into a conventional loan if the equity's there, and then you can use your FHA loan again to buy another, up to a 4-unit, which I did do again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, great. Well, when you bought the property, right? So you went to settlement, you closed on it, your knees are shaking.
Yeah.
What kind of did you do next? How was the management? How did you get accustomed to being a landlord?
So at the time there was 3 units and there was 3 people living in the unit. So there was no empty one. So I kind of had to like pick a person to kick out when I was 21, and all these guys were in their like 40, 45. And it's like, if you talk about people not respecting you, let me tell you, when you're 21 walking into a building like that, they're going to look at you and be like, who is this kid, right? And so we had one guy who had like a boxing thing outside his door with Christmas lights, and it was like, this guy's probably got to go. And so I had to end his lease, and I was like, hey, man, I'm sorry, but I've got to live here per the requirements of my loan. And he had the mentality of if you kick me out, this thing's not going to run by itself. Like, he was taking care of it. And I thought he was right. And then I finally got in there, and you kind of just figure stuff out as you go. And It was such a huge learning curve, but it was such a necessary one that I'm happy that it happened, right?
Yeah, exactly. And prior to this, did you have any experience with like just handiwork?
No, but I did know that YouTube did. So a lot of things I did was on YouTube, and I ended up going through a lot of maintenance issues with that building. For sure.
Yeah, I have multiple degrees from YouTube University, so I understand that for sure, man. But but as far as management on this property, 21 years old, just got into it. You were managing it yourself?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I moved in, and the other units are renting out for $700 a month, which is extremely low. I mean, I'm getting that in my Midwest market right now. And it should have been $1,000 a month, but my dad's mentality was like, hey, as long as it pays the mortgage, you're good to go. And so I moved in, I raised rents like $200 a month, and then I left them at $900 a month for like the 3 or 4 years I lived there. But I ended up living in the unit, rehabbing it, moving out into the other unit and rehabbing it, and like leasing them at higher rates. All the tenants I got, I don't know what it was. It was just in a good location, but there was really no issues, there was no parties. And I think it was a lot that I was there. And so it's like I was gung-ho, taking care of everything on the outside. I did a roof replacement and window replacement, which was expensive but necessary.
And I just want to know, like, how did you feel, and how easy, like how much time did it take for you to be managing these properties? Because obviously there's 2 ways to do it. You have management and you don't. My wife and I, we bought a 4-unit apartment complex. We decided to be the landlords. The first week we said, nope, it's time to put in management. We are not these people. So how much time did it take up of yours? And, a lot of people say, oh, you're going to get a call middle of the night with the toilet fix. Was that the case, or how was that?
I always hear that same thing, and I hear it from a lot of new people that I work with. It's like, oh, I don't want to unplug a toilet at 3 a.m, and it's like, well, put your phone on silent and deal with it tomorrow. Like, it never happened to me, and it has yet to happen to anyone I know. And so it's like, it was really easy, man. I mean, when I lived in the building, it was like I had their numbers. I made them do direct deposits, which I recommend to everybody. I mean, don't ever accept cash. Don't ever accept anything in the mail. I mean, it should be direct deposit that day. It should be paid. And if there's an issue, they text you and you figure it out and you call someone to get it over. But it was really simple managing the 3-unit. And it was so simple, in fact, that when I moved down to Green Lake, which was probably an hour away. And then I would go 5, 6, 7 months without ever hearing from any of the tenants, but still getting the notifications of rent deposit and still having a guy go and mow the lawn. And I was like, man, This doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes away or 5 hours away. Like I don't have to be there. And that's really what gave me the catalyst to go out of state.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll get to that. But you pretty much had that automated at that point. So basically you didn't have to worry about it. You had the guy that went out there and mowed the grass, and then you got paid. When you got paid, did you have it on was it a website like Cozy, or was it just like a cash app?
Cozy.co just got bought out by apartments.com. I just found out like last week, but I use Cozy.co. I use it for everything, because that was my main thing, was like you're going to be the busiest self-managing when you're replacing your tenants, and then changing the unit over is where most of the time comes in.
Yeah, and it's funny. I used Cozy on my first duplex as well, and they had a ton of features on there that you can use, and it was very user friendly.
Yeah, I liked it. Well, apartments.com bought it, but they're doing the same thing. Like, it's still free for a landlord. You can still get their email, and all I would use it for is like get their email, and then it would send them an email from their site, and they would pay for like a credit and background check, and then they would send the credit and background check to you. And it's like, you can really, like, just by looking at those things, let me tell you, man, you're going to know if they're going to pay or not. If they're paying all the other bills, they're going to pay your rent, right?
Exactly. So you got this triplex, you moved down an hour away. What was your next move in real estate?
So I moved down into Green Lake, and I think it just came up to where, I mean, I wish I would have held on to it, but it was at the time where the market was on fire, and it still is on fire. And then all of a sudden I started thinking about it, and I got like this idea in my head, like, oh, I don't want to, miss this prime opportunity to sell this building that has $300,000 in equity. Like, it has $300,000 equity. It's bringing in $3,000 a month in rent. And I was like, I feel like I can get a better return somewhere else. And so I was like, I think I need to list this on the market. And that's really the route that I chose.
Got you. And so you put it on the market, you sold it, obviously. Why don't we go ahead and just do an overview of your portfolio right now and just tell us what you have right now.
So I've currently got 40 units. I did a tax exchange into the 24 unit from this triplex, and then I just closed on 16 units 2 weeks ago, I think, right around 2 weeks ago. And so they're performing okay. They're going to be performing a lot better in 3 to 6 months once we kind of get a grip on it and get everyone used to new management and all that.
Exactly. Yeah. So you told me before we went on air here that you started this year with 6 units, and as of right now, you have 40, which is insane. I mean, the growth is insane. Did you expect to do that? Did you have goals for that? Or was it kind of something that halfway through the year, you're like, I can definitely do this?
I mean, I never thought I would break above 20. I mean, that was the goal, was like 20 houses, and you're just like a big baller killing it. And then I broke into the real estate space, and I got involved in the social media. And then you see all these people that is like, oh, they're not working, but he's got 300 units. Like, how is he doing it? And it's like when the unit count goes up, your work doesn't have to. But I would say in your first couple, so from 3 to 10 self-managing, your work's going way up. From 10 to 15, your work's going way up. But if you go from 15 to 30 and then you implement property management and the right tools, all of a sudden you have so much free time to just make these executive decisions. You're not taking phone calls. You're not dealing with tenants. And and
that's when you can really grow. That's when you can focus on finding the next deal, right? Getting that financing, finding the next deal. So with that, getting that, going into your 40 unit or going into your 24 units, and then your 2 8s to make 16, going into that, how was that step, taking a step from having 6 units and going up to now 40? Like, were you nervous at all? Was there a realization halfway through that you were like, you know what, this is just as easy as a 6 unit? Like, how was that?
I would say it was terrifying, but only because it was like a new unknown is really the only thing it was. Because these other 16 units I closed on, I was like, no big deal. And I honestly, I forget that I even own 40 units until the money hits my account and I make payments. Because it's so easy, but it's making that step. I had someone that I was working with kind of help me through it. And it was such a big relief. But I mean, the difference between buying 6 units at a time and 20 units at a time is so minute. Like, there's really not a whole lot. It just comes down. And honestly, it's easier to get financing on 24 units one time is way easier than getting financing on 24 individual units or a few duplexes and triplexes. And it was a good experience, man, for sure.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that, because a lot of investors say that literally there's no difference between, something like 5 units and 25 units, 40 units. The only difference is taking action and doing it. And then you realize, oh, wait, we can do that. Because if you have, like you said, have the systems in place, you have the property manager, you have your realtor accountant, everything that you have in place, you don't have to do much. It's more of overviewing and managing your property manager. And I think, I mean, obviously you're doing that right now. And I want to dive into that. How did you pick the market that you did? Because obviously it was out of state. And then can you kind of talk about how you decided to go about and how you interviewed the people on your team, the bigger pockets, call it the core four, how you pick them and interviewed them so that you could be successful?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I mentioned earlier, I had someone help me. He was kind of a mentor of mine, and he was investing in Illinois. He was in Chicago, and I knew right away that I didn't want to be in Chicago. And I think that was just like a stereotype I had of Chicago, and then all the empty apartment buildings, and then their population decline. And I was like, that's just not somewhere I want to be, right? Like I don't want to put myself in a situation where my building's going to go down in value over time. But I did want to invest somewhere kind of in that area. And I know that there's deals in every market. And so I picked a market that had 150,000 population minimum with a growing rate, with a bunch of anchor jobs around it. And so I picked Springfield, which is the capital of Illinois. So it's got all this government money that continues to flow into it. They've got tons of government jobs out there and just tons of these anchor companies and a growing population. And I was like, okay, if I can find a deal out here, it can work out. And so I ended up doing what is probably the most important thing I've ever learned is going on LoopNet and Crexy and looking at multifamily buildings in that market, and not so much buying those ones, but looking at who's listing them, because those listing brokers hold the keys to what you want. And so I've made a list of like 15 or 20 of them, and then I called every single one and I gave them specifics on exactly what I was looking for. And one guy was like, hey man, I just went to a Christmas party. This guy, Bill, he's got a 24 unit that I think he might want to sell. Let me give him a call. And he gave him a call, and I ended up buying that completely off market, completely out of state. I live in Seattle. So, I mean, it's a 4 or 5 hour flight away from me. And it just worked out like that.
I think everyone should get their pens and papers out and write that down, because I think that's huge. I mean, honestly, you went and found the big time hot shots, if you will, real estate agents that are doing commercial deals. You found their listings, you found their phone numbers, you called them and pretty much told them, hey, I'm an investor, I'm looking to do the same thing. And obviously the big shots in that market are going to know all the properties and property owners of those big, middle, and even smaller multifamily. So I think that's huge. When you went to these agents, is there anything, was there a persona where they didn't think you were serious? I mean, young kid, 20 or 6 units. How did they take you serious, and how did you go about having them take you serious?
So they don't know how old you are over the phone. And I would say, just depending on where you are and what field you're in, like if you're, a dentist and you talk to someone who's in your field, you're going to know right away if they're qualified to talk about what they're talking about, or if they're making sense. And it's the same with brokers. Like, if you talk to them and speak their language and are talking in the way that like they know, and it's like they're ready to go, you start mentioning things like cap rate and unit count and rehab costs and all these things, and you let them know that you have it all lined up and it's all prepared. And I mean, I was even listing like the property management companies that we were using out there, and we hadn't even gone with them, but it was like just so they could be like, oh, he's done research into the market.
He's done his research.
Validate what I've got going. So you've got to
so you took
the language.
You took the steps to be prepared for the meetings whenever you did call the agents, so they took you serious. I think that's hugely important as well. So going into it, you end up getting on these lists with these agents, right? And they start sending you properties, and then obviously one guy sent you a property, and it was one of the ones that you bought. How do you underwrite a property as far as your criteria for it?
So this is my favorite part about commercial deals. I mean, the value is strictly on the income that it brings in, and you can control the income, so you can control the value. And that's why people make so much money on multifamily. It's absolutely insane. But in that market, they underwrite them very well compared to out here in Seattle. I mean, it's going by the market that it's in. Everything's overpriced. Out there, they use a 40% expense ratio. So right off the bat, if it brings in $10,000 a month, $4,000 is for expenses. They do like a 5% for vacancy and a 5% for management. And then the rest is your net operating income. And then they'll give it a value based on that. I underwrite a little more conservatively. We do a 50% expense ratio. Usually a B or A class property can be at like a 40 to 45%, but 50% is pretty standard. And so basically 50% of the income is going to go to your expenses. And so that's going to be your maintenance, your vacancy, your management, and all that. And Sorry, I lost my train
Yeah.
of thought.
No, you're good, man. You're good. So yeah, obviously there's the bigger pockets and you go in there and do that, but getting more, nitty gritty with the numbers, commercial deal. Do you have any suggestion on where and how to find a calculator, either an Excel sheet or anything like that calculator where they can actually put those numbers in there and the expense ratio, like you were saying?
Yeah, so I've actually, if you go to my Instagram at Investor Chantz, I've got one in my bio. There's one that I would really recommend for larger apartment buildings. If you're looking for 15, 20, up to 100 units, I would use Michael Blanc's deal syndication calculator. It's incredible. It's what I use to underwrite all of my deals. And it really, like, 50% is just kind of a base number you use, and then you dive into all the numbers through there to just kind of get to that point. But you should have a really good picture after you use one of these calculators to get there for sure.
Okay, great. And I'm gonna link your Instagram as well as that calculator that you just said in the show notes for all you listeners. Just go in there and you'll be able to find Chance's Instagram, and you'll be able to find that rental calculator if you are interested. Well, I'm guessing that when you found the bank as well, you kind of did the same thing as what you did with the realtors.
I did. Well, I did the exact same thing. Yeah, I did the same thing for the bank and the property management. But it was a little easier because it was like I literally just Googled banks in Springfield, Illinois. And then I just made a list and I called every single one of them. And I was like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. This is a property I'm looking at. These are the numbers. Is this something you'd be interested in? And I think I called 4 or 5 before 2 were interested in it. And I ended up flying out there to meet them. And I think it was a month before closing, one of the banks backed out of the deal due to lack of personal relationship, because these smaller banks want to really know somebody. But it's like,
wow, okay.
Yeah, it was incredible. I was like, dude, I have $250,000 that I'm going to pay taxes on if I don't close on this deal. And so we were able to find another bank, and they ended up doing the deal with us. I met them one time. You just go down the list, call them, request the term sheets, and really get it going.
Yeah, well, that's kind of frustrating that they need personal, experience when how are you supposed to get a loan? But
they want that like bond. They want to meet you and know all that. And this 16 units we just closed on, we used another bank for 15% down, which on my TikTok a lot of people call that out. And I was like, dude, I'm just as surprised as you guys. I can't believe they did it, and they did, saved us like $50,000, which is sweet.
Wow. Well, we definitely want to go into that and how you're able to get that 15%. But first off, I want to see, is it all right if we go ahead and dive deep into that 24 unit that you purchased?
Yeah. I've got numbers pulled up.
Perfect. So you used, just for listeners, you used the 1031 money from your triplex and you put that into this 24 unit, correct?
Yeah, my thinking at the time was this building. Yeah, I mean the market's been so on fire, and it had 260,000 in equity, and the rents were 3,000 a month. And I was like, there's got to be a better return on equity than what I'm getting right here. And I was under the impression that the market's not going to continue to blow up like it still has. But I ended up selling it and doing a 1031 exchange, and then putting all of that money. My portion, which I own 80% of that building, was 260,000, and this building brings in $18,000 a month compared to the 3,000 that it brought in over here.
Wow! So you basically just traded properties,
if
you will. Yeah.
Why don't you money?
Yeah. What exactly? You traded for a much better property. Why don't you go ahead and tell the listeners what a 1031 exchange are, just in case?
So just a brief overview. A 1031 exchange is kind of you can exchange the funds you have in your property for a similar or like-kind property. So you can go from investment property to investment property, and it defers taxes, and you can really do it indefinitely. And a lot of people will buy these good properties like I have, and then you can do a cash-out refinance and then not pay taxes. So you can do it to kind of get money back that way. But you you'll have a huge tax liability if you sell and make $260,000.
Exactly. And wouldn't you say that that's a huge way how people scale?
Yeah. I mean, it almost forces you. I mean, the code is written for you to grow.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly how you went from having 6 units, earlier this year, and then now you have 40. So that's exactly why. So, okay. So how were you brought this 24 unit? Was it on the market? Was it not? And then what was the purchase price?
So this 24 unit was found by calling these brokers, and it wasn't in the first call. I mean, I followed up with this guy for 2 or 3 weeks. And then finally, he's like, you know what, like this came across my board, and he sent it over, and I ended up flying out there. I flew out there to look at 2 different buildings, and that was the second one I walked through, and it was nice. And I was like, let's do it. And then I ended up getting it under contract for 1.3.
1.3. Okay. And did that use all of your 1031 money?
So we ended up putting 25% down, which is $328,000. I put down 200, and I was approved to do just a 20% down, which means I could have afforded it myself. But at the same time, I had one of my relatives reach out to me and bring up syndication. I was like, "Oh, you're never going to believe this." So I was able to raise another $100,000. And
perfect timing.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, it couldn't have been better. And so we put 25% down, or $320,000.
Gotcha. Okay. So how did you structure that partnership?
So we did a very simple split. We have the LLC and the operating agreement, and they each brought, so there's 2 partners, they each brought $50,000. They get 10% of the ownership. I brought the 260 and I get 80%, which is more than what they're getting. In terms of, I get more percentage because of the work I put in. So their cash on cash return is probably 8 to 9% per year, and mine is 12 to 14% per year. Which is great. So,
but that goes to, you found the deal. You did all the the back leg. You did everything to get the deal, and then now currently you are the person that is obviously. Do you have a property manager?
Yeah, so I'm really the contact. So it's like I pay all the bills. I manage the property manager. I call her probably once every 2 weeks. And I'm kind of the eyes on the deal at all times. And then I'll send them a text maybe once a quarter, send out our cash flow distributions and do all that.
Yeah, so that's kind of, so it's very passive for them, and that's probably what they wanted, correct?
Yeah, very passive for them. And I mean, the building we've seen a compress in cap rates over there, so now we think the building's worth like 1.7.
Wow.
Which, so everyone's going to make a lot of money, which is great.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So you purchased this. What were the rents at the time of purchasing this?
So rents were around $18,000 a month.
Okay. Was there any room for adding value there?
So it was my first property. This building had been it's been completely remodeled. So they're very nice units.
Okay.
The rents are at market. We have room to raise them maybe $25, $50. We haven't done it yet, and we've just seen increase in value due to the compressed cap rate. But on these 16 units, which we can get in, they've got room to go up $100 per unit across the board, which is great.
Wow. No, that is. And it just goes to show that you don't have to buy a property and add value right away. I mean, you obviously bought this property and day one cash flows makes sense, and you're good to go. It's not like you have to. So if there isn't room for adding value in the rents, it doesn't mean it's a bad deal. So exactly. I just think that's important to note. But yeah. So okay. So you have it right now. It's stabilized. All the units are currently rented.
Yeah, I think we have 1 vacancy, 2 maybe.
Yeah. Gotcha. But that's going to happen with a larger multifamily like that. Yeah. Okay. So how did your transition from that? How did it go from going to those 2 8 units that you have now?
So it was a little different, and it was different because when I bought this, I was under the impression like I'm just going to own this 24 unit until I can get some more money saved up, or I can do something. And at the time I was working at Boeing, so I wasn't making a lot of money. And that was kind of it. But my partners that I brought on, he was very motivated to get to 100 units, and they've got the money to back it up. And it was to the point they're like, let's find a deal and let's make it happen. And so he really pushed me to go out and find these 2 other deals. And this one of the 8 units was listed on Zillow. It had been listed for an hour, and it's because I had my filters on, which everyone, if you're buying multifamilies, put those filters on and have them sent instantly. Listed for an hour, and I had it under contract. And then we ended up asking, I was like, hey man, do you have any other buildings you want to buy? Because if someone owns an 8 unit, usually they didn't do it by accident. So they'll own a few more. And so we ended up being able to get another 8 unit of his off market. And we closed on both of them with the same loan. And that partnership is structured a little different. I didn't bring any of my own money to that deal, which is great. I have 25% of the equity, which isn't that great. But we're looking to make something like $220,000 after we simply just raising rents. I mean, it's raising rents to market. We're going to make $220,000 in a year or 2. And then I have an option in the contract where if I bring $50,000, then I can get 50% of the equity. which I'm going to do.
Wow.
Like,
yeah, that seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like I can hold on to my 50 grand and like use it for whatever now, and then right before we go to sell, be like, hey, here's this money.
Yeah,
but I'll
no,
before so.
Exactly. And I hear a lot of people like they're on the fence 50-50. Like people say that I don't want to go into a deal unless I own it all by myself. And that's really a limiting factor to scaling, because partnerships, that's how you grow. And I was just talking about this on another podcast with that landlady, Kayla, and she was saying the same thing. She'd grown to 40 units, and the reason she was able to do that is by partnerships. And she doesn't own all of it, but she obviously gets a portion of that, just like you do. And the learning curve on that, you learn so much more doing more deals than if you were to just buy one property and have that and learn yourself, So I think there's a ton of benefits, and it also, you scale faster with that. So with your partnership, you said that one was a family member. Is that correct?
Yeah. He's a family member, and then he kind of brought in one of his friends, and then it's to the point where if we had a big enough deal, I think we're looking to get up to 100 units, but we're looking to buy 20 to 100 units at once. So
So were they a little iffy at first? The first investor, was that your family member? Were they iffy at first going into it?
Yeah, so it was more like he approached me. We'd had like these mastermind Zoom meetings, and he was just very motivating and really wanting to get more out of everything. And I was like, hey, he told me he'd heard about syndication, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. I have this 24 unit under contract. We're going to close in like 2 weeks. And he's like, wow. I want to get involved. And it was like, he could see like all the work that I done. I had the calculator put together. I had the numbers figured out. I had the bank lined up. I had the property managers. I had the lawyer draft the operating agreement, the LLC. And it was like, everything is ready to go. And I'm putting $260,000 of my own money into it. Wow. So it's like, I have the most risk is on me. I'm going to do it by myself, whether you get involved or not. And he was so excited. And there's been so many times where he's like, dude, if you want me to buy, a portion of your money out to get some of that equity, let me know. And it's like, oh, I can't.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You're like, no, thanks. No, but that's huge. I mean, I just think that's, like I say a lot, that's proof of concept. So once they see that, it works, obviously that 24 unit, it works, and they see the benefits of that. So they are more willing. And in this instance, they're reaching out to you saying, go buy more, we'll cover it. And now you're into, millions of dollars of property without having put money down, which it's huge. I mean, a little bit of something is better than nothing,
Yeah, so. No, 100%. And I mean, this first deal led into the second one, because if I approached them with the second deal, I was like, hey, here's 16 units. I don't want to put any of my own money in, but I think it'll work. They're going to be like, there's no way, right? Exactly. This deal totally worked out. We got great terms. We got a great rate. Everything has been good so far. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. They would just tell you to kick rocks or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get into, so you bought that. How long after did you get those 2 8 units?
So probably about 8 months.
8 months. Okay.
8 months after. And we could have gone a little quicker, but I was still like, this is like, right. I bought it and then COVID hit. And then it was like, I think COVID hit maybe before it, but it was like, I bought it and COVID was going on. And it was just like, it was a
lot going on.
There was so much happening. And so I was working full time at Boeing, and I ended up, Boeing sent us out of work for a month and a half, and I ended up getting my real estate license, because like, if I quit Boeing, what am I going to do? And now I'm a full-time realtor because of the income that this building brings in. So,
wow. Okay. So you got into real estate investing, you loved it that much, and you became a realtor. So what do you focus mostly on investors, or how does that work?
So I'm doing just kind of first-time home buyers, just selling people their first-time houses. I do work with people individually on the side to get them into multifamily, and I actually just got a duplex under contract with a client. Surprisingly, he called me and he was like, hey, I'm looking to go and look at this duplex. Do you have any investing knowledge? And I was like, wow, man, I'm super glad you called me. Like, let's sit down and talk.
You told him, no, I have zero investing knowledge. No.
Exactly.
No, that's awesome. No, I'm a real estate investor, obviously a real estate investor, a real estate agent here in Maryland. And it's funny, I tell all my buddies, I bought a 4-unit and I lived in 1 unit, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, they're so smart," or "You're so smart for doing that," and I'm like, "Yeah, you should do it," and they're like, "Nah,
No,
I'm like, it's insane.
people will say that and they'll want to do it, and then the second there's any work involved of doing something that they're like, I would rather just get a single family home and pay this bill for 30 years, they're just out.
Yeah,
like,
it's easier, right?
yeah, it's ridiculous.
Which is insane. Yeah. So okay, well, so that's interesting that you got into real estate, and I mean, you've been liking it.
Yeah, no, the reason I did it is because I wanted, like, if I ever left Boeing, I wanted to be able to fall back on something.
Yeah.
So I took the class and I passed it, and let me tell you, that test was something to be messed with for sure.
Dude, I feel the same way.
Yeah,
it was insane.
I passed it on my first try, but I mean, I studied hard to pass it, and now I don't use anything that was ever taught. But I wanted to kind of align my entire life in real estate and just kind of have investing be a branch of it. And it's been probably one of the best things I've ever done, because I'm learning so much. There's so much more on both sides. And that's why it's like, you can look at a realtor who knows nothing about investing, and they're not going to be able to help you at all. And then you can know an investor that knows nothing about what it takes to go and to actually buy a house and the process and
exactly.
And so it's been beneficial. And now my whole life is kind of involved around real estate, which is great. I love it.
Exactly. That's awesome. That's the whole point of all this. So, well, okay. So let's see how you got. So how did you find the bank for the 2 8-units? And did you get that all in one loan?
Yeah. So we brought the deal back to the bank that we'd used before, but they were going to offer us, they're going to offer us 25% down at 20 years amortization, which is like, you want the longest amortization possible to make your payment super low, and you want to put the least amount down. And I was like, dude, I think 25% down on 20 years, it made our payment really high. And I was like, it just doesn't make sense. It's like, unless we're going to just go in here to flip it, we want a little bit of cash flow. And so we were moving forward with them. And then I called the other bank and I was like, hey guys, can you do something with this? He's like, yeah, man, we can do 15% at 25 years. And I was like, are you serious? Like, better literally on both ends.
Yeah.
And it was like,
am I getting pranked right now?
Yeah, I couldn't even believe it. And so I had to call the bank that financed our 24 unit. I was like, hey guys, like, unfortunately, we have to go to the other bank. Like, I mean, there's just no loyalty, right? I mean, their terms are just way better. And so I have to go with them.
Exactly. Did you go to them in the bank that you used before? Did you go to them and say, hey, if you can match these, we'll stay?
Yeah, I did. And they had regulations in place where they couldn't. And the other bank is like, these are our standards and this is what we can do. And I thought they were joking, but now it's like it's opened the door, because it's like less capital to get involved, longer term, better return. And I mean, now when we make 200 grand, when you make 200 grand on 200 grand, it's 100%. But when you make 200 on 100, it's just double.
Yeah. Simple math here, guys.
Simple math, but there's a lot of money involved, so it's awesome.
Yeah. Oh wow, dude, that is incredible, and I'm sure that if there's anyone out here listening that wants to get involved in Chicago, they're going to be calling you or looking you up, DMing you on Instagram and saying, what bank did you use? Because that's incredible. Because I mean, you talked about it before we even got on air that you've been getting a little bit of hate from it. Not hate, but just people saying, no, that's not true from it, on your TikTok and everything like that. And I just kind of find that comical.
Yeah, no, a lot of people reach out and ask me the bank, and it's like, I can't just throw all these people at this bank that probably not qualified. They probably aren't, like, they're just starting. And it's like, I don't want my name getting thrown around at banks that I'm using personally.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. Well, cool. Well, yeah. So you purchased these 2 properties, and it was all in one loan, you said, right?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Yep. Okay. And what was the rents at the time of purchase?
So they're renting for $5,000 a month per building. So we're bringing about $10,000 in. Our payment is $2,100.
Okay. And say that again. Your payment was what?
$2,100
for both properties.
Yeah, for the loan itself.
Wow.
That's why it's incredible. Out there.
Yeah. No. That's great right there. What did you purchase it for?
$659 total.
For both of them. Okay. And you said that you were able to raise you in the next, I don't know, 6 months to a year, you're going to raise rents how much? We're
looking $50 to $100 per unit.
Okay.
Which is going to create something from like 180 to 240 in extra value. And so the goal isn't to sell those, though. The goal is to get another 60 unit bring all of these up to standard, and then sell all as a package, because institutional investors will come in and they'll pay a compressed cap rate for multiple units. So that's kind of the goal, is to put together a 100-unit package, sell it at like a 7% cap rate, and make like $1 million would be awesome.
Oh. Yeah, no, that I would say that would be awesome. So are you looking just for a 60-unit apartment complex? Or are you trying to build it within 8 units, 20 units? It doesn't matter.
We want to stay 8 units is probably the lowest we'd go. We only bought it because he happened to have another 8-unit building.
Okay.
And it was a great deal, and there was an opportunity to make money. But I mean, we really want to get, probably 30 to 100 unit in the same area.
Okay.
But if we have to do it with 2 30 units, it's fine. If it has to be 3 20 units, it's, the same.
Yeah. So you kind of went over your goal of where you're looking for. You're looking to get to that 100 unit number in that market, that same market. So, what's the goal after that? Like, what's your goal moving forward?
So goal is to get to 100 units by June of next year. So we got about 6 months.
Okay.
And then after that, we're going to sell them. I mean, and goals will change, but we're going to sell them as a package, and we're either going to go to a market that is more tax friendly and landlord friendly. Taxes in Illinois are terrible, so
yeah,
we learned that. So I mean, as long as you escrow and underwrite the building properly, you're good. But it's like it's just expensive.
Yeah.
And then after that, we're just going to either move markets or continue to buy in Illinois. So I think we'll probably move. We're looking at like Des Moines and other markets that might have more of an appreciation or just be a better market in general. But if I can continue to find good deals out here in Illinois, I'm going to continue to buy deals out there.
Got you. Okay. And once you sell your portfolio of 100 units plus, like what is the goal as far as for you? Like, are you trying to be hands-on as possible and do this full time? Are you trying to get to a point where everything's automated and you have that time freedom? Obviously that's the goal, but are you just trying to scale as much as possible in the next coming years?
Yeah, I mean, my goal is ultimately to get to like 20 grand a month in passive income, and then really live I don't want to say a simple life, but a very simple life in a very nice area. Like I'd love to be in like Hawaii, or maybe even like another country, and just kind of go that whole thing, and then do a lot of online virtual things. And that's really the ultimate goal. And I've got friends that live out of country and own a bunch of properties here. And so it's like, I could do the same, right? So that's kind of the plan.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, if anyone listening right here could help you in any way, what could they bring you that is of value?
Money.
It's money. Yeah, me too. Me too. Don't forget me too.
I mean, if people want to reach out and connect and talk to me about their markets, I'd love that. I'm really looking to get into short-term rentals. Short-term rentals can blow these things out of the water. And so that's really what I'm starting to get a lot of passion about is getting into short-term rentals. So if you're big into that, I'd love to talk. If you have any deals in Springfield, Illinois, or any larger apartment buildings out in the Midwest that makes sense, I mean, and reach out and let me know.
Yeah, definitely. And with your short-term rentals, do you think you're going to do partnerships, or is that something you're going to try to do individually?
I'm totally open to partnerships. I've got a few friends I've already talked to that are really big in the space. And it's like, hey, let me come in half down payment and use kind of your knowledge and leverage on you a little bit to do my first couple, and then maybe bring in partners where they kind of use my skills to do that. So
great. Yeah, great. So I want to ask you this question. What would you tell a newbie investor just getting started, ready to buy their first property? What is the first thing that they should do in real estate investing?
I would say the first thing you should do is consume everything real estate related from the right people. Yeah. And I mean, you guys, if you're on this podcast, you probably already know, but time and time again, Bigger Pockets has all the current relevant information. And I've listened to probably every single one of those. And what'll happen is their podcast, you'll start to pick up the patterns that are happening. And when you hear 20 or 30 people say the same thing, you're like, that must be right. And then realize that you're going down a path that is tried and true. And so every question you could have has been answered. There's no unknowns, and you just got to look for it, and you really just got to want it and make it happen.
Exactly. My two resources that I go to big time Bigger Pockets, YouTube University. Those
Yeah.
two. I mean, honestly, man, between those two, you can accomplish anything. No, but I think that's awesome. I think the way that you grew this year from 6 to 40 units, and I keep saying that, but it's impressive. It's extremely impressive to do that. Stepping outside your comfort zone, buying that 24 unit, and then scaling to the 40 units you have today. There's no question in my mind. I think that you'll reach that 100 units by June of next year. So I think that's huge. And also, I think you added a ton of value to what the possibilities are after house hacking and after buying a property with equity, what you can do with that in order to grow, in order to scale, in order to get bigger. So I think that's huge as well. I do want to get into one topic real quick. So for you, those that do not know, Chantz is a famous TikToker. he tap dances. So it's the fun. No, I'm just kidding. He is a TikToker, and he is on. It's all about real estate, and he exploded. And I kind of want you to talk a little bit about that, of how that's affected your real estate as well.
Yeah, I mean, just going on TikTok and social media in general, if you guys are involved in real estate or whatever your niche is and you know a lot about, you should be putting content out about it, and you never know what's going to happen. I've made some great connections with a lot of people. It's the reason I'm actually on here today, is I've met Evan on Instagram. So it's like it's been great, and I've had people come into my DMs through TikTok blowing up. That it just lends that source of credibility to you when you have a bunch of followers or what have you, and you get more sight on you, and you just get more money in general. Everything about it is good. You get more deals brought to you. You get more people wanting to work with you. I mean, I would recommend starting right away for sure.
Yeah. So walk me through that weekend, that, just of that video popping. What were you thinking? Were you constantly putting out TikTok videos
so
at that point?
I was doing something like 4 or 5 videos a day, and the video that blew up, that got me from 50,000 to 220 in 3 days. I'd already posted. It was a repost video, and so it's like TikTok. It just picks stuff up at like different times. So I mean, I've just tried different times with different hashtags, and it finally picked it up. And I mean, you're talking. I was doing like 100 to 150 new followers a day. But when you get followers on TikTok, they all come at once. I remember I went to bed and I woke up and I had 130,000 new ones, and I took a screenshot and I was like, this cannot be real. This is unreal. And I mean, it was super exciting. I mean, I had a great 3 days for sure with it.
Yeah. And now you're constantly running that as a business, correct?
Yeah. So I'm trying to get more involved with making it have more systems in place to get kind of these videos up daily. Kind of carve out a time to make the content and do all that. Because I mean, making content, let me tell you, being a content creator is not an easy thing. It takes a lot of time, and you have to just bust out a lot of information and hope that something sticks.
Exactly. And then the fact that you're doing full-time real estate agent, full-time real estate investing, and on top of that, making multiple posts a day on that and creating new ideas. I mean, I could see that, being struggling to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But do you think that's brought you, just social media in general and all the hype that you've received, and obviously for a reason, if these people are still following you, still new followers, do you think that that's helped you with your network as well as being able to reach people? And obviously, I mean, my thought would be, moving forward, if you had, let's say you were looking in Florida, you post a video saying, hey, I'm looking in Florida for a short-term rental. If anyone that knows anything about an off-market property, let me know. And I would think that the publicity that you're getting right now would help extremely.
Yeah, it definitely would. I've been going live on TikTok, and that's where you can like really connect with the people that are following you. And I'll do these like deal overviews, and we'll look on Zillow and go to their market. And I mean, it's people from all over the United States. It's incredible. And I mean, it's well qualified people who are ready to buy, who can, and they know about their market. And so, I mean, if I have a question about a certain market, I could definitely post on there and increase my network for sure.
Yeah, and that's so valuable to be able to have that at your fingertips, and for you alone, that's incredible. I wanted to ask as well, because Instagram, you have a pretty good following on Instagram as well. Mm-hmm. Is that well, obviously not because of TikTok, but did TikTok help that as well?
Yeah. I mean, when TikTok is how I'm getting all of my followers on Instagram, actually, unless Instagram is showing people to follow me. But it's like if I have a TikTok video blow up, like the one that got 1.5 million views, I got like 600 or 700 followers a day for like a week. Because right on TikTok, you have the Instagram link next to it. So they click it, go there, see that you're active on there, and then follow you there. And so it all kind of is congruent with itself, and it just kind of it works out really well.
Yeah. And if you feel comfortable with it, are you comfortable sharing the story about how you were able to make some money off of it as well?
Yeah. So I've got a calculator, like a rental property calculator. And it works really well. If you're looking to buy a 1 to 10 unit building, I mean, you can go in and use this thing, and it just kind of shows you your numbers. But I ended up putting a PDF download available for $25 in my bio. And I'm very thankful that I had that in there prior to my video blowing up. I would say in 7 days, I made something like $10,000 just from that calculator, which is incredible. I mean, it literally, I didn't think it was real until I was like, you know what, let's send an owner payment. And then it hit my account, and I was like, holy moly, man, like this is incredible.
You looked at it and you're like, this is a glitch. This is not my money. Yeah. I should not touch it.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's like I was working at Boeing making max $150, $200 a day, and then putting tax on it. And then this comes out and it's like, hey, you just made $10,000 in the last 3 days.
Oh my gosh. That's the power of social media right now. I mean, seriously, it's exploding. And I've heard that TikTok, Twitter, and LinkedIn are some of I think Gary Vee actually said that. I think those are some of the best places to post because they don't go off of your audience looking at it and interacting with it. They kind of it kind of just shoots out everywhere. And, I just heard that they're great. And TikTok, I mean, obviously that's the newest one. Yeah. I mean, it's exploding.
You can post a video and get 1 million views on it with 0 followers. That's why TikTok is so important. Because I mean, if Instagram, you post, you're going to reach maybe like 1/10 of your audience. It's incredible. Yeah. Reach nobody. TikTok is like you post and you can reach everybody. It's insane. And so
exactly. I think I have one TikTok on, or I have a TikTok account. Never use it. I think I put one on there. I got like 100 views and like 70 likes, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? So I mean, obviously you were in the right time, right time of your video exploding, and that's something that you can fall back on, and now that can help you so much with your business, and that's just another aspect of how you can be more successful. So I think that's huge, integrating those into your business. But anyways, Chantz, you have been amazing so far, but we're going to work on getting you out of here now. Just a couple more questions, but cool. But yeah, I really appreciate it. One of the first questions on getting you out of here is, what is your why?
So my why is just that I don't want to go to work for someone else for 40 years. I mean, I want to be able to get up and travel and spend time in other countries and other places and do these things that you see on all these videos everywhere. And if you're working for someone else for 40 years, I mean, it's just not going to happen.
Exactly. And real estate, real estate allowed you to, because obviously for those that don't know, when you're a real estate agent, you don't make money unless you sell houses or rentals, or you have a rental. So if it does not close, you don't make money. And usually if you get a house under contract today, in 30 to 45 days, that's when it will pay out. So some people don't know that. So that's how a real estate agent gets their money. So real estate investing, you getting that 24 unit and the 16 unit, that helped you, correct me if I'm wrong, quit your day job in order to focus on that full time, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's the only reason I was able to quit. I had a lot of money saved up, which was good too. But that alone, I mean, the passive income from the 24 unit covers all of my bills, which is great. I actually have a little condo out here in Seattle that I bought on a short sale. My payment's only like $800 a month. And so, yeah.
Wow. So you have 41 units.
Yeah. I guess if you count this condo that I'm in, I've got 41.
Oh man, I'm writing that down to change that. Yeah. No, just kidding. No, that's awesome, man. And I think you're only going up. I'm super excited to see 2022 for you. I think that's going to be huge. I also want to know what sorts of education kind of helped you get to where you are today? I know you mentioned your mentor. That's definitely one that can be accounted for. Podcasts, you kind of touch on that too. Any books? What kind of helped you get here?
So at the beginning, when I was 18 to 23, it was all podcasts all the time, reading all the books, and then you start to see these returning patterns. And eventually, you just need to make a move, and that's when the triplex came up. And I was like, let me jump in. And I learned a lot from the podcasts and the books, but let me tell you, the first 6 months of owning that and managing it yourself, you learn everything, and then you start to realize that it's not difficult. I would even venture to call it easy. Like, it's not hard. There's an answer for what you need to do if you do it right. And then I leaned on some mentors, and then I had my Instagram and TikTok, and I'm able to follow people now in this space and ask them questions. And I mean, it's just relying on the YouTube Academy, like you're bringing up, is huge, and Bigger Pockets as well.
Exactly. I bring up the story all the time that my wife and I, our first duplex we purchased, we had $6,500. Well, it was just, we were dating at the time, but I had $6,500 in my account, and I had to put $6,300. So I only had like $200 left after closing. So, and then we went into it, and I mean, we were shaking. We didn't know what to do. We had zero background in doing anything handy, and we made it work. And it, honestly, that, like you said, that first 3 to 6 months, oh my gosh, the learning that we did on that first 3 to 6 months was incredible. And that's honestly like the base of now my investing moving forward. And I made so many mistakes. I'm sure you've made a couple of mistakes as well.
Oh, yeah.
And you learn from it. And now moving forward on these bigger deals, you can capitalize on it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So last question for you today. Where can listeners find you?
So there's a few places. I'm on TikTok at Investor Chantz. Instagram is probably the best place, and that's at Investor Chantz, and Chantz is Chantz. If you reach out to my DMs, we can talk there. I think that's really all I got.
Yeah, awesome. Well, what do you also want to talk a little bit about? Chantz also has a mentorship program.
I do have a mentorship program. It's kind of for the right people. If you're looking to work with me to buy your first rental or buy up to like a 10-unit building, I have a lot of experience in that space, and can kind of help you do that. I know in my personal experience, the mentor that I had was the reason I was able to buy that building. And as an example, when I did go to buy it, we had a broker who was trying to be the buying and seller. So he's trying to double agent the deal. And the seller didn't want to pay the $75,000 in commission. Obviously, I wouldn't either. And then he reached out to me and was like, hey, man, the seller's not going to pay it. I'm going to need you to. And it was such a good deal, and it still is, that I could have paid it and it would have been fine. And I reached out to my mentor on this one thing, and it was my first deal. I was like, I'll pay it, dude. No big deal. He's like, no, man, you need to send this guy an angry text, be upset, like let him know that's not okay. And I did that. And the very next day, he's like, all right, well, the seller agreed to pay it, so everything's fine. And it's like just that one thing saved me $75,000. So it's incredible. So
exactly. And if you didn't have that person to lean back on, you might have, like you just said, you might just said, you know what, I'm going to bite the bullet. And that's a big bullet. You know? Yeah,
it would. Exactly. So if that's something you're interested in, reach out to me on Instagram. There's a few different levels, and we can talk about that.
Yeah, and also I'd like you to just touch on real quick the benefit if you obviously try to get them into their first deal, but if for some reason their market, what do you provide to them?
So we have like a guarantee at the end. So if you work with me and in the first 6 months to a year you don't actually buy and close on a deal, then I'll guarantee that you can invest in one of my deals with me. We're offering an 8% cash on cash return. So at the end of the day, you will get a deal, you will become a real estate investor, and you will gain more knowledge just for going through it and implementing the steps that we're going to be talking about.
Well, perfect, Chantz. I think that's huge. I think, his resume speaks for himself on this podcast. But anyone that wants any of that information, it will be in the show notes, obviously. And then if you follow at Chasing Cashflow Podcast, it will be all over there as well. So, Chantz, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on today and taking the time. You've added a ton of value, and I'm super excited to see you in 2022.
Cool, man. Awesome. Thank you so much.